Happy Thyroid Thursday. If you're new, my name is Brittany and I am a metastatic thyroid cancer survivor, papillary cancer. I have had several other videos about just different things I've been through, surgeries and treatments, so I would love for you to check those out. Today I'm specifically going to be talking about my lymph node biopsies. I have had other parts of my body's biopsied before, but today I'm specifically going to talk about biopsies I've had related to thyroid cancer or thyroid cancer that is spread. So these biopsies are only about lymphatic biopsy or lymph node biopsies. From what I hear, everything's pretty similar generally. When you have a biopsy, no matter where it is, it's going to be relatively painful. But I have a really good experience to share with you guys where that was not the case. So I'm just going to briefly talk about my 3 different biopsies that I've had on my lymph nodes. And yeah, I'm going to get right into that video. Again, welcome, and I hope this is helpful. So the first time I had my lymph nodes biopsied was about a year and a half. Wow, no, maybe like a year and 3 months ago. This was a situation where we were pretty sure that I had had a reoccurrence that actually didn't turn out to be a reoccurrence. It was just one of those situations where it was there but had gone unnoticed, and unfortunately the lymph nodes my surgeon had removed during my thyroidectomy, he was not able to catch the others that were left in place. So this was to determine whether or not I would need a neck dissection. Now, after I had already had an ultrasound and a CT with and without contrast, there was pretty much mostly indication that I still had some cancer and malignancy in my neck. So I had this first biopsy, which, you know, I'd never really had in this area. I'd heard a lot of people talk about it. I was so blessed that I didn't even have to have my thyroid biopsied before having my thyroid removed. So this was the first time that I'd ever experienced anything quite like this. For moral support, my mom and friend went with me, and they're both a trip, especially when you get them together. Now, I was already a little nervous and a little anxious, but I will tell you, after you've been through a cancer experience or after you've been through something like a thyroidectomy or a cancer diagnosis, any sort of diagnosis of an autoimmune or serious illness, biopsy kind of seems like a piece of cake. So there are things now where people are like, this is gonna hurt, and I'm like, you go ahead, girl, I've had way worse. So not to say that I know what the max amount of pain is. Of course, I don't know what it's like to give birth to a baby, and I'm sure that that's the highest probably on the list, or one of the highest, but biopsies are known for not being relatively painless. So my mom and friend were there, and it took a minute for the doctor to come in. He was with another patient, and I had actually had to wait about an hour and a half. I was already prepped, I had already had my vitals taken and everything, and so, you know, that kind of added to the anxiety, the fact that it was just taking so long. My friend has no filter, and she also works in the medical field, so she was like, where is this guy? Like, what is taking so long? And she's really funny. So it was great to have her there, but at the same time I was like, oh my god, I hope she's not there like making it worse. But she didn't make it worse. She was very informative. She was, you know, just being a good friend and trying to be helpful. The guy finally arrived, and I felt at ease because already I had had 2 nurses to prep me that were very, very nice. Before they do the biopsy, they do a sonogram or an ultrasound just to kind of make sure that they're gonna pull the tissue out of the right lymph node or the right area. So that was ready. They had already done a good job with that. The nurses were telling me about this doctor. I shit you not, his name was Dr. Shepard, okay? Now, if you know Grey's Anatomy at all, you might find this funny. I'm sure that there are millions upon millions of Dr. Shepards in the world, but it was really interesting that my biopsy guy happened to be Dr. Shepard. And I was just cutting up with him, you know, just to kind of make light of the situation. And I'm very good at guessing people's places where they're from by their accents, and right off the bat I guessed that he was from Michigan. Not that any of this is important, but it's just part of the story that makes it better for me to share, so I thought that I would, you know, just throw in how I was cutting up with Dr. Shepard and making fun of his name, and I guessed on the first try that he was from Michigan. I was telling the girls in there how I named all of my tumors after Game of Thrones characters, and I'll make another video about that. But yeah, so that biopsy was not too bad. They do try to give you a numbing, like a local anesthetic or something, to numb the area that you're going to be biopsied in. Now, I definitely could feel it. They had to take quite a bit of tissue out of this one, so I believe they had to go in about 4 or 5 times, and I would say on a scale of 1 to 10 it was probably like a 6 or a 7. Even if you have a high pain tolerance, it was still pretty bad, but I did have the nurses to hold my hand, and it was very helpful. It was over in the blink of an eye, and I was sent on my way. The next time I had a biopsy was about 6 months later, and it was actually, thank the Lord, one that came out being non-malignant. There were no signs of papillary cancer or follicular or any kind of carcinoma in those tissue samples that they took, but this was my absolute worst experience having a biopsy in my life. Not only was the doctor kind of rude, it didn't help at all that, well, I'll get into what he did that was very helpful for me later, and I'm sure that he had had a busy day. I'm sure that he had had lots of other people, but I just want to explain to you, this was like phase 2. After I had already had a radical neck dissection, I had already had a thyroidectomy. This was like, once again, 90% sure all my doctors were certain that I had had a reoccurrence, and this was in an area right around here, so it was very painful. I experienced it for a long time, and my doctor, my ENT, really fought for me to have this biopsy done, which was amazing of him. I have a great ENT, as I say in a lot of my videos. I absolutely adore my doctors, and he fought tooth and nail for this man, this head of radiology or whatever at the time, to do this biopsy. And this guy came into the room. He already didn't want to do the biopsy. He was kind of an a-hole, and he just didn't make me feel better. I believe strongly that if you're going to be a doctor, one of the most important things about your profession is that you have some sort of relatively decent bedside manner, okay? And this guy just seemed like he wanted to be anywhere else than where he was. And I'm not going to blame the fact that my biopsy was more painful because he was a jerk, but it was. It was absolutely the most excruciating biopsy I had. He wasn't able to numb the situation, like, I guess they numbed the wrong area, and I am sure that he's very good at what he does. He told me where he trained. He was bragging, which didn't really help. I didn't care. I just wanted to have the biopsy done so I could get my results and move on with my life. Anyway, it hurt a lot. It was definitely a 10 out of 10. Even had I had already gone through all the painful things that I've been through in my life, this biopsy was really bad. So I strongly recommend that if you're going to have a lymph node biopsy, any kind of biopsy where they numb you, please ask them to be very mindful of where they numb you. Please ask them to do a really good job, because you know you're not telling them how to do their job, but you're advocating for yourself, and you're the one in the position that is having this procedure done. You're the one who is enduring the pain, and not only enduring the pain, but having to wait for very serious results to come in that could be ultimately life-changing. Now, the last time I had a biopsy was actually a couple of months ago, and this biopsy was the best biopsy I've ever had. Not only did it determine the fact that I had good results and that my cancer was under control, but it was also the most painless of all the biopsies. The nurses who I had already known, who did my sonogram beforehand leading up to the guy walking in to do the procedure, were really nice. They let me know, hey, this guy's really good, he's really good at numbing. And you know, I was hopeful, but because of, you know, the pretty painful experiences I had already had, I wasn't expecting a very good time. But he did come in, he was super nice, and you know, I was already prepared for the worst, but not only did I get good results, like I said, he numbed me really well. I could not feel a thing. So after they numbed me, I felt the biopsy Not at all. I did start to feel a little pain when I got home hours later, but it was very minor, so I took Tylenol. But I just wanted to overall make this video to let you guys know that every doctor has a different method of whatever procedure they're doing. Not all doctors are the same. Not all biopsies are going to give you the same results pain-wise. You know, it really just depends on the location, the way they numb you, the angle they have to go in. So I'm not by any means trying to say that doctor number 2 did a terrible job or he was a terrible doctor. But I am saying, yes, I'm sure it was a difficult thing for him to do, but his attitude could have been a little better. So I just always advocate that you speak with your doctors, let them know you're concerned, ask whatever there is that might be a possibility that might help you or might help the situation be better, so that it's the best possible experience and that you'll have the best possible outcome.